Hello, and welcome to your Sister in Elections, where today I'm going to be making the third iteration of my series where I look at the most recent polls in all the swing states across the nation and compiling an electoral map based on these current polling figures. And I've been doing this monthly since May. Gonna be covering all the states that have not, that I characterize as a swing state. You might say Virginia or Missouri might not fall into a safe category, but realistically, they're never ever going to be flipping to the opposite party than I have it characterized. So I've also filled in the uh, the possible swing districts in Maine and Nebraska. I've gone both of them Republican, given that is how they went back in 2016, and realistically, Maine's second district is not going to flip, and Nebraska's second district could flip, but then it is also highly unlikely that it will flip. So this is the map as I have it at the moment: 127 electoral votes for Donald Trump and the Republicans, and 203 for Joe Biden and the Democrats. Now, first of all, I'm going to be starting off with Iowa, and that is, currently going to Trump by 3 points, so that goes into the lean margin. Again, that has stayed, rather consistent in the Republican column throughout all my videos, and the last 2 months really hasn't changed much. Georgia, however, is currently rated as a lean Democratic one with a Joe Biden currently holding a 4 point lead over the president. Definitely the Atlanta suburbs definitely going to come out. As long as he can capture a high voter turnout in Atlanta and its suburbs, then I think he can have a decent chance of making Georgia a competitive state. However, I doubt it will be going to Joe Biden by 4 points come November. Texas is also a different one, which has changed since June, and this is currently rated, a tilt margin to Republicans, 1%. Trump leading by 46 to 45 points. Of course, there's quite a lot of undecided voters, which could, sway it either way. But I still think, this is probably the best it will get for the Democrats. I can't really see Texas actually going blue this cycle. I'd definitely say you'd probably look towards 2024, 2028 before you ever get a proper competitive race at the presidential level in the state of Texas, due to the huge, conservative base, and they're definitely not going to turn away from Trump in 2020. But this is the current polling that it is. It could be possibly, Democratic leaning or own polling firm. I just want to say that I'm using 538 polls. So it aggregates quite a lot of polling firms, Republican and Democrat, find an average that it has. So now we're going to move on to two more states: Ohio, which is currently given a tilt Democrat, and North Carolina, which is given a lean. +1 in Ohio, +2 in North Carolina. So there's not really much difference between these two states. I think if these two states are going Democratic come November, then Joe Biden's already won the election, because the more competitive states, Wisconsin, Michigan, Florida, they would definitely be going blue as well if these less competitive ones are going blue. But as you can see, there's a very narrow margin here. Joe Biden probably, I think Joe Biden can definitely increase some voter turnout, especially from Hillary Clinton back in 2016. North Carolina, it was quite close, and Ohio, not so much, 10 points in favor of the president. North Carolina was, closer than it had been, had been projected, and I definitely think North Carolina is more likely than Ohio to flip back to the Democratic column. Now we're going to be moving over to Colorado, which I, this is currently rated as a safe state. 17-point buffer between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. I definitely don't see this going to the Republicans at this stage, and I might just fill it in as a safe state at this point. But it's definitely increased in the past few months from being probably an 8-point lead to well over a safe margin. So not really anything that's going to change in Colorado. And the Senate race is definitely going to be going to the Democrats, unless something major happens. John Hickenlooper not having a scandal or something coming out. But Colorado, is essentially a Democratic safe state now, which is pretty interesting. given the gradual shift in the past 10 years, but not much cover there. Also going to go into Nevada, and that is currently given a lean status. 4 point margin. There hasn't been much polling data in this state, statewide. But Hillary Clinton won it back in 2016. I can only see Joe Biden holding on to this state come 2020, come November. Sorry. Now we're going to be going over to the Rust Belt states, and all of these are in a likely margin for Joe Biden at the moment. Despite there being decreases in both Wisconsin and Michigan, Biden dropping from double digits in both of these, well, double digits in Michigan to around 6 points in Michigan, which is realistically what I see could happen in November. You're never going to get more than you could have, a top end lean, low end likely, but realistically, these two are probably going to be going to Joe Biden unless Trump can make a huge comeback in the coming months. And Wisconsin is currently, the highest one due to the with the most recent polling data, and that's 11 points. However, I don't actually see that. I'm also going to characterize Minnesota. That's also a likely state. 5 point margin. But again, not much polling data in Minnesota. Hillary Clinton, won it not by the hugest margin, not by the largest margin, but she still won it. Still managed to hold on to it while losing all the other Rust Belt states. So Minnesota, is more likely safe than unlikely, despite the lack of polling data, probably just because they know that it's going to be going into the Democratic column. I'm also going to characterize Florida, and currently that is a 6 point lead for Joe Biden. Biden leading with 48 points to Trump's 42. Of course, none of these are fully decided. You're still going to have roughly 10% of the correspondents to these polls, most of them being registered voters, going to be saying that they are undecided or independent at the moment. So yeah, quite interesting to see where this is going. But Florida, currently trending quite heavily for Joe Biden, even though I think Joe Biden can have certainly a strong base. He does quite well with the older generations compared to Bernie Sanders, for example. And with the large retiree population in Florida, that can definitely play to his advantage in the state. And New Hampshire, which I've not characterized yet, is also likely, not safe, likely. Definitely trended, held quite steady for the Democrats between 5 and 10 points over the last, year, well, couple of years really. The Senate, going to be rather safe for Gene Shaheen. And Arizona is going to stay as a toss-up actually. But as you can see, it's already a huge blow for the Democrats in the East. They don't really need to worry about the West if this was the case. With Arizona, currently being even, Biden and Trump both having 46%, so you're still going to have 8 undecideds, which definitely could go either way. But I think that's probably the best way to characterize Arizona at the moment. Given the huge population boom in Phoenix, there's definitely been a huge voter increase for the Democratic Party, and that's been seen with the House majority of the seats that are available in the state. So, seeing the polling data even at the moment is no big surprise. But, this is a huge blowout victory for the Democrats. 356 electoral votes for Joe Biden and 171 for Trump. So, these polls have definitely been harsh on Trump. His approval ratings have definitely slipped, especially with the coronavirus, getting a large hold, especially on states like Florida, which is seeing like 15K increases of cases per day. It's quite astounding at the huge bounce back of the virus in the last few couple 2-3 weeks. So that could definitely play into Joe Biden's hands. He's not in charge of any of this, so this could all definitely. But overall, I've seen somewhat of a drop. Some states have seen a bit of an increase, while some states have seen a bit of a decrease. But most of the states have held their positions since I did this video about a month back in June. And final results: 356 for the Democrats, 171 for the Republicans. And I hope you enjoyed. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you all again soon.